All right, we have a question here that asks us, suppose that gamma is an angle. Okay, so first of all, gamma is just a variable. Don't get intimidated by that. It could be x, it could be theta. We're just using a Greek letter named gamma here. Okay, so it's just a variable. And I'm going to write gamma like that. Okay. Suppose that gamma is an angle with cosecant of gamma equals to 19/9, and gamma is not in the second quadrant. Compute the exact value of cotangent of gamma. You do not have to rationalize the denominator. Okay, so as is with so many things here, we're going to start with a little sketch and try to figure out where this angle is. So they tell us that gamma is not in the second quadrant. Okay, well, why is that helpful? Well, cosecant of gamma, where is that positive? Well, cosecant is 1 over sine. And we've got our little mnemonic here. Sine is positive in quadrant 1 with A for all, and the second quadrant for sine, right? So this cosecant is either going to be in quadrant 1 or 2, and they tell us it is not in the second quadrant, so it's somewhere over here in the first quadrant, okay? We're never going to have to find what gamma is. We are just going to say, okay, there's gamma somewhere in the first quadrant. And we know that I'm going to draw a little triangle. And I'm going to enlarge that triangle here. Here's my gamma. And it tells me that cosecant of gamma is 19/9. Well, what do I know about cosecant of gamma? Cosecant is 1 over sine of gamma, right? So 1 over sine is 19/9. That tells me that I know that sine of gamma is 1 over 19/9, or just the reciprocal. Great. Okay, so I know that sine of gamma is 19/9. If I knew, what am I looking for? I'm looking for cotangent of gamma. Well, what is cotangent? Cotangent is 1 over tangent. And tangent is sine over cosine. So this is going to be cosine over sine. I already know sine. If I could find cosine, then I'd be able to calculate this. There are two different ways that I can calculate cosine once I know sine. The first way is I could think about this triangle here. Okay, well, if this is gamma, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so 9/19. Right? And if I knew what this length was in this right triangle, then I'd be good. I could say, well, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So let's use the Pythagorean theorem. I can say 19 squared equals 9 squared plus x squared. Okay, and let's see, what is 19 squared? 19 squared is 361. And I'll bring the 9 squared over. Okay, that's going to give me 280. So this is the square root of 280. I'll just leave it like that. And so now, great, I can say, well, I know what cosine is. Cosine of gamma is adjacent over hypotenuse. Right. Okay, well, I'm almost ready. I do know what cosine is, but could I have found cosine a different way? Sure, I could use, let's do a different color just so this is something different. I could have used the Pythagorean identity. I could have said sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. Okay, so I know what sine is, so I could say 9/19 squared plus cosine squared equals 1, and I could solve for cosine that way. It's going to give me the same value. Either way is going to get me to the same point. So let's see. Let's use another value here. So I can say cotangent is cosine, square root of 280/19, divided by sine, which we know is 9/19. So copy dot flip. let's see, a 19 and 19. Cotangent is going to be the square root of 280 divided by 9. Okay, so what steps did I have to take here? Well, first, I drew a little sketch. I figured out which quadrant my angle was in. And from that information, I could draw a triangle to get a sense of what my different values were. And, all 6 trig functions are just going to be different ratios of these 3 values, right? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent is is opposite over adjacent, and then the other 3 trig ratios are just reciprocals of those. So once we know all 3 sides of that triangle, we can find any of our 6 trig functions. Or I could, but I do need to know like my fundamental identities here, right? I need to know that cosecant is 1 over sine and cotangent is 1 over tangent, or cosine over sine. I need to know those fundamental identities. I apply those to be able to then know which ratios I'm going to do some algebra on and simplify to get my final solution. Great. Please feel free to email me if you still have any questions.